Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, your main proprietor at the Tenkars-Tavern blog. So, if you yourself are doing podcasts, videos, make sure you don't have the mute button on your mic going before you start talking, because then you can find yourself doing a whole episode muted. 2 points to me. So, folks, before we get into today's episode, which is, by the way, it's about Mongoose, it's about Traveler. Yes, here, I'll go right to the point. Mongoose isn't just licensing Traveler, Mongoose now owns Traveler. That's pretty spot on for an IP that's been around for nearly 50 years, 1977. But before we fully delve into that, there's a link on the bottom of the screen. tenkars-tavern.games/gygax. I'm not going to spell it for you. If you don't know how to spell Gygax, what a bad gamer you are. There's work here by Gary, Luke, Ernie, the Memorial Tomb, Castle Zagyig. There is stuff for Luke's Chiafu World. And work from a lot of publishers and authors that are Gygax adjacent. So, whether you play 1E, D20, I'm pretty sure there's some Pathfinder in there. Swords and Wizardry, OSE, Castles and Crusades, Call of Cthulhu. There's a little bit for everybody. So again, it's Tenkars, there's tavern.games/Gygax. This Humble Bundle, these are PDFs. No, you're not going to get them in print, but you can get a crap ton of PDFs for $25. You're spending about 30. If you divide it amongst the products that are out there, and a lot of these are 3 titles in one, 8 titles in one, you're probably getting about 75 different PDFs for $25. Amazing value. But not what you're here for, right? Let's get on to the news. Traveler changing hands. This was posted by Mongoose Matt. News has begun leaking of Marc Miller passing Traveler in its entirety onto Mongoose. With so much invested in the game and the universe, it's only natural that you may have an awful lot of questions. In this thread, we will try to answer as many of your queries and concerns as we can. So, these are your basic questions, basically the facts about what's going on. And then there's another 5 pages of commentary, questions, and answers. So I'm not going to go over the extras, just the facts. But I will link this in the show notes so you can go and follow it yourself and ask questions. If you have questions, ask. When did this happen? Why was no announcement made? I think this is the biggest one. We had been discussing what would happen to Traveler and its succession, as Marc called it, for a few years. We started formally talking about how this would work in terms of the purchase a little more than 2 years ago. It took about a year to draw everything together, and the final agreement was signed in January of this year. Marc requested that we make no announcement about this until his passing, which we were happy to do. The only reason to shout it out would be ego, and we were not really interested in that. However, I did point out the chances of keeping this a secret for that long, years, decades, were not great. So Marc suggested that the announcement was to be made on Traveler's 50th anniversary in 2027. And again, we agreed. This, incidentally, is why the Mongoose editions of Traveler are not put in the fair use policy in January. If you look at the wording, it would have been very apparent what had happened, and Marc wanted to avoid that. Some people had to be told, obviously, starting with the companies who had been licensed and Traveler in various forms, and members of Marc's inner circle. When it became clear that this news was going to break, we informed the frontline Traveler writers and some other notables, as we felt they deserved to know before everything became very public. Anyway, the best laid plans, as they say, I am frankly amazed we managed to go 7 odd months, but it was perhaps inevitable. What will happen to T5? T5 is Mark Miller's current version of Traveler. It will continue. Before we started getting into the nitty gritty of the transfer, we let Mark know that we wanted him to continue his work on T5 and Traveler Fiction. He will be able to do this for as long as he is able and will benefit fully from these projects. Beyond that, all the T5 and fiction material gets folded back into Mongoose, so it will not simply disappear. This, incidentally, is why the original, not Traveler, but Traveler adjacent board games were passed on to us. Mark was very clear. He did not want them to disappear either, which could well have happened otherwise. And after that, well, we have time, hopefully a lot of it. With any luck, we will find a continuing home for T5 development in one way or another. Will Mongoose support previous editions? There's a caveat on this. Yes, because they'll be available in electronic format, but they're not going to do further development on it. That said, over time, we hope to return to some of the PDFs and update them, which will then be made available to anyone who picked them up on our website or drive-through. Beyond that, our passion is for the Traveler universe and the stories that can be told within it, rather than in a particular set of mechanics. The older editions are going nowhere. We would like to expand both the mechanics and timelines to the GAS program, but efforts are going to have to be made to avoid that turning into a holy mess. We're going to be adding Classic Traveler to the GAS program, so you'll be able to publish and sell your own Classic Traveler titles. We're doing this first for no other reason than we think it will be the easiest. Expect to see that happen relatively soon, before the end of the year, certainly. What about DGP's titles and other third-party Traveler books? In Traveler's early years, there was a massive amount of publishers publishing work for Traveler, and over time, Mark made heroic efforts in drawing everything back into the Traveler fold. We intend to continue these efforts in order to make Traveler a cohesive whole. For example, we knew of a Traveler writer whose payments from a third-party publisher, whose titles had now passed to us, were, shall we say, a tad nebulous. One of the first things we did was contact that writer and actually pay them. It strengthened the foundations of Traveler a little and, frankly, was the right thing to do. As for other titles in the Traveler wilderness, don't expect things to happen quickly, but conversations are being had. Will Mongoose editions now join the fair use policy? Yes. Give us a few days to update the document, but if you have any specific projects in mind, you can proceed as if those editions are already part of the fair use policy. We won't be coming after you. Will you be licensing Traveler out to everyone now? They are talking to licensees. However, Mongoose is not in a position where we have to desperately recover our investment into Traveler. While there are licensing projects we would like to pursue, we will not be handing out Traveler logos like Sweeties, so don't expect to see Traveler branded pencil sharpeners anytime soon. As for the gray Traveler projects, this is apparently mostly fiction. Consider them on hold until Mark can get to them. And they want to make sure they add to the IP. Were any Traveler-based websites included in this transfer? The Cody forums were included, as was the Traveler Wiki. And they're going to be looking to, a general review of digital tools for Traveler. Do you still discuss things with Mark? All the time. There is and always has been a continuing line of communication between us, and this will not end. For example, we were working on a Traveler adjacent project that's very close to something Mark was looking to do back in the day. Mark provided his notes to us, and we are incorporating a lot of those into the new project. Mark's influence will be felt for decades to come if we have anything to do with it. So, folks, that is the latest with Traveler. Again, this is a game that dates back to 1977, nearly 50 years. It's got one hell of a heritage. And I've heard good things. I own the Traveler, the Mongoose first edition rules. I don't own the second edition. They look very comprehensive and coherent, and I haven't run Traveler in decades, so take that for what it's worth. But it's nice to see Traveler in hands that respect the IP. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Tunnels and Trolls. It's supposed to be coming back out, I think, in 2025. We shall see. All right, folks. On that note, again, on the bottom of the screen, tenkars-tavern.games /Gygax will take you to Humble Bundle with a huge RPG bundle with stuff from Ernie, Gary, Luke, and more. So, folks, no live stream tonight, obviously. Fifth Friday. Be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, roll them well. Live stream tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Gamers Health, myself, and my wife, Rach. Look forward to seeing you then. Good night. God bless.